we focus our attention on Manchester United because over the weekend there, we saw the very powerful pairing of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, very much the new man on the block at Manchester United, sitting beside the man who did everything in his time at Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson, as Manchester United laboured a bit towards the end, although McTominay might have won the game against Tottenham, but it ended up 2-2. Thereafter, it would appear that Sir Jim has indeed had a meeting with the supporters, and the supporters have told Sir Jim about how they value his arrival and what they hope to see Sir Jim achieve in his time at the football club. Of course, these very same supporters extremely fed up and frustrated about where the club's been going under the Glazers. Simon is with me, so too is Danny. The Manchester United Supporters Trust spokesperson is I nearly called you Sir Chris Rumfitt, Chris. How'd you like that?
Well, that would be a career change I'd be up for.
There we are. Maybe further down the line that will happen. So tell us, Sir Jim met with yourself and members of your own organisation. How did that go? Where did it happen? And what was said?
Yeah, no, I was in two meetings with Sir Jim and his team, Dave Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, and others. On Monday. It was a private meeting, so I'm not going to kind of read out everything that was said, but there was two meetings that I participated in. I believe there was a third as well. The meetings were at Old Trafford, and they were very encouraging. I mean, first things first, they were encouraging by the very fact they took place in 19 years of ownership. We've never had an in-person, in-the-room meeting with any Glazer, and the fact that Jim Ratcliffe did it before he's even completed his deal to buy the club sends a very big signal to us in terms of the change he's going to bring. He's made a very good start.
That's good to hear.
He hasn't really started yet.
That's good to hear, Chris. I mean, Simon, in an instant, Sir Jim has done what the Glazers seemingly were incapable of doing, engaging with the supporters right away.
Yeah, well, it's common sense. No one suggests you shouldn't engage with the supporters. I've never thought it was clever that the Glazers don't engage with the supporters. I don't think it's clever, any football club owner not engaging with the supporters. And that's never been my observation on it. Whether you do precisely what the supporters want you to do is a different matter. But of course, if you're Jim Ratcliffe and you've got the level of common sense and business nous that he's got, he's going to look at the challenges and go, where do these things potentially lose traction, and where do we create a different feel? I tell you what we'll do something different to what others have done, because if you haven't engaged with the fans, and one of the accusations is that you haven't engaged with the fans, and it's a matter of fact that you haven't, then I'm going to do it in this way. I'm going to make sure that influential voices in the fan base are communicated with. Nothing wrong with that. Common sense.
How would you describe the mood of this then, Chris? I know you obviously, what you discussed was what you discussed, and you're quite right to say better not release too much of that. But you're suddenly in a situation that you dreamt of being in, and suddenly you were in it. Yeah. I mean, how did you and the rest of your people in the Supporters Trust behave in it, for a start?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think we're all professional people in our group, so we're well used to being in senior level meetings with top people. So, we behaved professionally. We didn't, sit there making football chants. I would say the mood of the meeting, when it was led by Sir Jim. I mean, it's the first time I'd met him. He is a man with a very considerable aura. He's a big guy, well over 6 foot tall, I would say, and he has got a presence about him in the way certain people do. And I would say that the mood was serious and the mood was focused. And what I took away from it is he and his team, in the short term in particular, are very focused on the underperformance of Manchester United on the football field over the last decade, and on-field matters, and fixing that is priority number 1, 2, and 3 in the short term. I think at Manchester United, it's such a goldfish bowl that it's very easy to get distracted by extraneous matters, and I don't think he will be, and I don't think Dave Brailsford will be, and I don't think the others involved in his team will be. It's all about on-field performance for them right now.
Simon's mentioned it before, this so-called Ineos curse. And here he is getting involved again in another sporting organisation. And in the past, when Ineos get involved, it somewhat goes pear-shaped for that sporting organisation. Was that even mentioned, even tongue-in-cheek?
It wasn't. I mean, I think after not the best start at Nice, I think since Ineos got more hands-on at Nice, they're doing rather well now, aren't they? Aren't they in the top few in France? So we did go there. We were very focused on Manchester United.
So at the end of the day, I mean, him meeting you is one thing, but the change you lot are looking for, Chris, isn't going to happen overnight, is it?
No, it isn't. And I think one of the things about being a Manchester United fan, the last decade has made us all probably more patient and more realistic than we were in 2013 when Sir Alex retired. I think we all recognise this is the work of several years. Over the last decade, the club has gone a long way backwards, and it's the work of several years. And I would like to think that fans are realistic and patient, and know that we are not going to be back at the top immediately. We want to be competing. He said, his view is the objective is to be competing for the title each season, and in the top 6 or 8 in Europe.
What's the biggest impact you think he can make in a short space of time? What's the one thing you think he can do they can do to make an impact on the pitch success?
Yeah, well, I think first things first, there's investment. They've committed to 300 million of investment. Now, whilst that commitment is to win the infrastructure and the stadium, my understanding is it does change your financial fair play ratios. So even though the investment's in the stadium, it does allow you to spend more money on players and bring better players in. I think secondly, I think it's widely acknowledged that the football structure at United, the structure above the manager, is not, best in class when you look even annoyingly enough across the town at City, where there's a whole football structure built to give the manager the best chance of success. And you'd probably say that at Arsenal and other clubs too. I think what I sensed was the mindset of the club is changing. One criticism of the Glazers, which I think we would echo, is for too long we've been a club that sees commercial success as the first priority and footballing success as the second priority. I think what we've heard so far is that Jim Ratcliffe intends to reverse that and rightly put footballing success as priority number one and commercial success as an enabler of that rather than the priority in itself.
Interesting, Chris. Finally, Gary Neville claimed that after the draw with Tottenham, that Ten Hag was very much an addition until the end of the season for his job. Do you agree with that?
I don't know, and that certainly wasn't discussed in the meeting.
Well, he is factually.
A change of control in clubs. It's not uncommon for the manager to be changed thereafter. But Ten Hag's got a very difficult job. He had a great first season. Second season's more difficult, but I don't know. That's we'll see about that.
That's not a 100% endorsement of Ten Hag, is it?
Well, it can't be.
As a supporters trust, we don't get into who should be the manager or not. That's for individual fans to make their minds up on.
Yeah, you've been very subtle, Chris, this lunchtime. You never know. Sir Jim could be listening. I believe he does. Thank you very much indeed. What do you make of that, Simon? I like the way that I hear how the meeting was conducted.
Well, it wasn't going to be conducted any other way. And it's a very different approach. We will see. We will see how philanthropic. It's very easy to say things. The problem with Man United is the culture of that football club has been allowed to go to a level where players don't have their understanding of what the responsibility of playing for Man United is. How do you change that culture? You change that culture by wanting to address it. If you've got a hands-on approach, with whether Dave Brailsford translates, we'll see.
Yeah,
I think he's an impressive individual in some respects. I think he's David Brent in other respects.
Yeah,
and I think that there is a balance between commercial reality of Man United, philanthropic agendas, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's ultimate end game. And we'll see. Right now, the first thing you do to the fans and influential supporters groups is you listen to them. You take on board their point, and then you go and do precisely what you want to do.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.